I am Ripper, Terror, Slasher, Gouger. I am the teeth in the darkness, the talons in the night. Mine is strength and lust and power. I am Beowulf. Alright, so I'm just jumping straight in, so be ready, okay? My grandmother on my mom's side was English, and my grandfather on my dad's side was German, from the Netherlands. Okay, that means he was from the Netherlands and moved to Germany, Dutch German. So three of my four brothers and I share a mother, and we all have, it started out blonde and then went to light brown hair and blue eyes. My mother and father were white on my mother's side, as well as my father's side, of course, but I don't know where my mother's side, where they came from necessarily. So it's very clear that the blood of Furio runs through my veins. Believe it. Alright, so the master race is a concept in Nazi and neo-Nazi ideology, which the Nordic or Aryan races predominantly predominantly among the Germans and other Northern European peoples are deemed highest in racial hierarchy. Alright, so like I said, from the Netherlands and Germany right here. And we were English on my grandma's side, on my dad's end. So the Nazi official Alfred Rosenberg believed that the Nordic race was descended from Proto-Aryans, who he believed had prehistorically dwelt on the northern German plain, and who had ultimately originated from the lost continent of Atlantis. The Minoan eruption of Thera, also referred to as the Thera eruption, Santorini eruption, or late Bronze Age eruption, was a major catastrophic volcano eruption with a volcanic explosivity index of 6 or 7 and a dense rock equivalent of 14 cubic miles. Dated to the mid-2nd millennium BCE, the eruption was one of the largest volcanic events on Earth in recorded history.
Me and this guy named Miller got separated from the unit.
It devastated the island of Thera, now called Santorini, including the Minoan settlement at Aktoriki and communities in agricultural areas on nearby islands and the coast of Crete, with a related earthquake and tsunami. The Minoan civilization flourished on Crete beginning in the 3rd millennium before the Common Era, and was astonishingly advanced artistically and technologically. The Minoans were also the first literate people of Europe. Alright, that's important to remember. The Minoan civilization developed in mainland Greece in the 2nd millennium before the Common Era. It shared many cultural features with the Minoans. They used the Linear B script, an early form of Greek. Alright. Now I've hyperlinked in the description box all of my sources, and the following are selected excerpts from an article entitled "The Minoans Were Caucasian." DNA debunks long-standing history that Europe's first advanced culture was African, which I've heard lots of times. Alright? Europe's first advanced culture was not African, and now we have the DNA to prove it. You know, we was the cradle of civilization and all. Even though I debunked that, or they may have been able to debunk the out of Africa theory entirely. See, we was cave beasts. Alright, I covered that in another video, so of other people. I may hyperlink something, I may not. But they found a jawbone in Israel, essentially, that was older than everything else. Bam, boom. So, or no, it was near Israel, whatever. Basically, it was white people, okay? Because Ashkenazi Jews are whites. In my last video, right, about that. So DNA analysis has debunked the long-standing theory that the Minoans, who some 5,000 years ago established Europe's first advanced Bronze Age culture, were from Africa. They weren't. The Minoan civilization arose from the Mediterranean Sea of Crete and in approximately the 27th century BC and flourished for 12 centuries until the 15th century BC. but the culture was lost until British archaeologist Sir Arthur Evans unearthed its remains on Crete in 1900, where he found vestiges of a civilization he believed was formed by refugees from northern Egypt. Modern archaeologists have cast doubt on that version of events, and now DNA tests of Minoan remains suggest that they were descended from ancient farmers who settled the islands thousands of years earlier. Remember the displaced agricultural people I mentioned a minute ago. These people, it is believed, are from the same stock that came from the east to populate the rest of Europe. Evans set to work on Crete in 1900 with a team of archaeologists soon after the island was liberated from the yoke of the Ottoman Empire, after immediately unearthing a great palace. He named the civilization he discovered after the legendary Greek king Minos, and based on likenesses between Minoan artifacts and those from Egypt and Libya, proposed that its founders migrated into the area from North Africa. Since then, other archaeologists have suggested that the Minoans may have come from other regions, possibly Turkey, Balkans, or the Middle East. But now a joint US and Greek team has made a mitochondrial DNA analysis of Minoan skeletal remains to demonstrate the likely ancestors of the ancient people. Mitochondria, the energy powerhouse of cells, contains our own DNA, or genetic code, and because mitochondrial DNA is passed down from mothers to their children via the human egg, it contains information about maternal ancestry. Findings suggest that the Minoan civilization arose from the population already living in Crete. Okay? That these people were probably descendants of the first humans to reach there about 9,000 years ago. Furthermore, they found the remains have the greatest genetic similarity with modern European populations. Okay? At the same time, the first Neolithic inhabitants reached Crete. Our mitochondrial DNA analysis shows that the Minoans' strongest genetic relationship are with those Neolithic humans, as well as with the ancient and modern Europeans. Our data suggests that the Neolithic populations gave rise to the Minoans, also migrated into Europe, and gave rise to the modern European peoples. George Stephanopoulos, professor of medicine and genome science at the University of Washington, according to that guy. Dr. Stephanopoulos and his team analyzed samples from 37 skeletons found in a cave in Crete's Lacinti Plateau, and compared them with mitochondrial DNA sequences from 135 modern and ancient human populations. For the record, that's a lot of skeletons for one cave, or even a cave system. The Minoan system's samples revealed 21 distinct mitochondrial DNA variations, of which 6 were unique to the Minoans, all right, and 15 shared with the modern and ancient populations. None of the Minoans carried mitochondrial DNA variations characteristic of African populations. All right, so there's your definitive proof.
Studied the route for weeks.
Further analysis showed that the Minoans were only distantly related to Egyptian, Libyan, and North African populations. Indeed, the Minoans shared the greatest percentage of their mitochondrial DNA with European populations, especially those of northern, that's me, and western Europe. When plotted geographically, shared Minoan mitochondrial DNA variation was lowest in North Africa and increased progressively across the Middle East, Caucasus, Mediterranean islands, and southern Europe and mainland Europe. The highest percentage of shared Minoan mitochondrial DNA was found in the Neolithic populations of southern Europe. The analysis also showed a high degree of sharing with the current population of the Lacinti Plateau in Greece. In fact, the maternal genetic information passed down through many generations of mitochondria is still present in modern-day residents of the area where the Minoan skeletons were found. Dr. Stephanopoulos said he believes that the findings highlight the importance of modern DNA analysis as a tool for understanding human history. Alright, so let that be a lesson to you. Now then, Atlantis, right, is a fictional island mentioned within an allegory on the hubris of nations in Plato's work, Timaeus and Critias, where it represents the antagonist naval power that besieges ancient Athens, the pseudo-historic embodiment of Plato's ideal state in the Republic. In the story, Athens repels the Atlantean attack unlike any other nation of the known world, supposedly giving testament to the superiority of Plato's concept of a state, right? A republic. The story concludes, which is what America is, see Article 4, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution. Not a democracy, we're a republic. The story concludes that Atlantis, falling out of favor with the deities, and was submerged into the Atlantic Ocean. While present-day philologists and classicists agree about the story's fictional character, it is still debated what served as its inspiration. That's the purpose of this video. I'm throwing my conjecture in the hat. Or my hat in the ring, whatever you say. This led to a number of scholars to investigate possible inspirations of Atlantis from Egyptian record of the Thera eruption and the Sea People invasion, or the Trojan War. The biblical connection with the volcanic eruption of the Santorini, Greece, is thus: the Exodus section of the Old Testament is much revered, and there is contradiction in the way some people have interpreted Exodus. Some regard it as a legend or myth, while others regard it as the Word of God. For the record, I'm in the second camp. The Exodus depicts the escape of the Jews from Egypt, essentially. Moses parted the Red Sea, permitted the Jews to travel to Sinai, while the Egyptians were drowned in the surging waves. In recent times, Exodus has been in great demand in the scientific community, and it has been studied extensively. They are of the opinion that the storyline in Exodus is primarily based on seismic movements, alright? So geologists are of the opinion that the eruption of the Santorini volcano is the basis of the 12 plagues of Exodus. Post-eruption, a vast neighborhood might have endured sufferings and tribulations like deluge, drought, and firestorm, etc. Not even cities located on higher platforms could escape the wrath of the devastating earthquakes. Molten magma ash, in all likelihood, would have completely blackened the atmosphere. Scientists believe that most of the 12 plagues occurred as a consequence of volcanic activity. Not necessarily saying they're not a miracle, but hey, I mean, God's timing's pretty, godlike. So the mention of darkness in the Bible may be without doubt ascribed to the molten ash and pumice on the surface, right? Even the stormy winds were blowing to the southeasterly direction where Egypt was located, okay? So, I mean, it doesn't get more plaguey than that. I mean, they got smitten, what can I say? So furthermore, they've also found like Sodom and Gomorrah and stuff, but I'll probably get into that. So, and the Ark. So Charles Pellegrino, furthermore, according to renowned archaeologist Charles Pellegrino, high-velocity dust storms were supposed to have rained down in Egypt from the dust clouds, thereby turning days into nights. The Exodus story also mentions plagues and devastating fires upon Egypt. Pellegrino compares the Santorini eruptions with that of Mount St. Helens in Oregon as a burning example of what the Santorini eruption might have been like. The plagues occurred due to the volcanic eruption and attracted hordes of locusts, and there was evidence of erratic animal activity, largely due to the alteration of air pressure and weather conditions. After the complete devastation of Egypt, the Jews were able to get away in spite of Pharaoh's soldiers being in hot pursuit. In the Exodus, there is a quotation which goes like this: "By day in a pillar of cloud to lead them the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light." This state of biblical affairs can easily be related to the volcanic eruption. Alright, so if that's all you take from this video, we got it. Alright, God done it again. Okay, so so significantly, the awesome Pillenian column created by the Santorini eruption might have afforded cloud cover by day and would have become visible like fire by night, right? Just like the Bible says. One must also take into consideration the division of the Red Sea, which might have drawn waters thereby in shaping a caldera. Alright, so it doesn't get more backed up than that. Moses too would have crossed over thereby, making things that much more difficult for the Pharaoh's soldiers. Biblical stories may be interpreted in different ways, like legends or myths, but I interpret them as they were written, as the truth. The Exodus dates back to 1447 BC, but this is by no means exact due to the fact that it is an anthology of stories. Historians have no clue as to what Pharaoh ruled during the era of Moses, which in itself is regarded as the most authentic timing of the story. Alright, there you go. Okay, so now you know what happened in Exodus. The Sea Peoples are, which I mentioned earlier, the Sea Peoples are purported seafaring confederation that attacked ancient Egypt, which I also mentioned, and other regions in the East Mediterranean prior to and during the late Bronze Age collapse, and following the creation of the concept in the 19th century, it became one of the most famous characters of Egyptian history, given its connection with, in the words of Wilhelm Max Müller, the most important question of ethnography, alright, which is race, I believe, and the primitive history of classic nations. Their origins uncertain, the various sea peoples have been proposed to have originated from places that include Western Asia Minor, the Aegean, the Mediterranean islands, and Southern Europe. Alright, it all lines up perfectly. Although the archaeological inscriptions do not include reference to the migration, the Sea Peoples are conjectured to have sailed around the eastern Mediterranean and invaded Anatolia, Syria, Canaan, Phoenicia, Cyprus, and Egypt toward the end of the Bronze Age. Just in time for our Santorini eruption, right? So, the Sea People, or the Sea Peoples, right? Remember, I started off with Beowulf. He was a sea person, as it were, Geats. Now, their tribe went extinct, but I mean, hey, they're all from that area. So, the Sea People remain unidentified in the eyes of most modern scholars, and hypotheses regarding the origin of the various groups are the source of much speculation. Existing theories variously propose equating them with several Aegean tribes, raiders from Central Europe, scattered soldiers who turned to piracy, or who had become refugees, and links with natural disasters such as earthquakes and climactic shifts. Alright, there you go. I mean, it's not going to get much more, shall we say, obvious. Alright, so to recap, okay, we have here, I start off talking about my Nazis and my races and stuff. Okay, now the Aryans, the etymology is all wacky for that, so I'd call them more Nordic, okay? But they were taught, Alfred Rosenberg was like, oh yeah, we was basically supermaster race from Atlantis, okay? And it's like, yeah, that makes sense. Then we get into the Minoan civilization of Crete, home of, or where John wrote Revelation, or one of those islands around Crete, okay, also where the term Cretan comes from, and because they were kind of barbaric, what can I say, we was berserkers. Alright, All right, then we go. So we go from Nazi conspiracy theorists of Atlantis and master race with blue eyes and whatever, and then we go to Minoan civilization. Then we go to DNA analysis of the Minoan civilization, find out they're white, and then we're looking at Crete and all this, and people saying Africa was where the first European civilization originated. It wasn't. And then we go and, oh, yep, there's undeniable European ancestry, even by area. Then we go to Atlantis and what Plato called Atlantis, and how he made it a model of his republican government, okay? And then white people come to America and form a republican government. It all makes perfect sense, okay? And so Plato's like, yeah, you know, this republic's, that's where you want to be. And then the sea peoples who were displaced is where we go to next. And they attacked Egypt and this, that, and the other place, okay? Not unlike Mr. Beowulf. And then, okay, so the sea peoples are running around, right? And it's known the Vikings are coming around and stuff. They got to America. It's proven they got to America way before Columbus. The Vikings did, and that's right where my people are coming from, give or take, okay? And then the Bible jumps in talking about, oh yeah, there was definitely something going on, because God, I mean, right around that time is when God done it, and, you know, through all them plagues at the Pharaoh, who's just upwind from the Santorini volcano. I don't believe in coincidence. I believe in providence and time and chance, which happened to us all. So the cities were, I mean, located downwind and everything. The frogs, the locusts, everything that happened has been known to happen with seismic shifts, changes in air pressure because of magnets and the what have yous, and all of that, okay? So, I mean, it lines up absolutely perfect. I didn't mention this, but also the water turning to blood. There's something called a red tide, which is just volcanoes have been known to trigger them, and different events have been known to trigger a red tide. So even that could be attributed to a volcanic eruption, okay? Then you got, like I say, the sea peoples attacking everybody, and they were a confederation. Why would you hang out if you were just random people? Doesn't make any sense. But if you were very advanced for their time civilization of people who were used to working together, and you had maybe a federation of states, if you will, yeah, they would hang out, you know, because they're all, I'm going to say it, white folks, Caucasians, okay? And then we end up with proof that, yeah, they were also refugees, which may be caused by natural disasters such as earthquakes and climatic shifts. Now then, for the record, white people really are the master race, and some conspiracies just happen to be true. Believe it. Or not.